Alright, so here we are today. We're going to put this carburetor back together. I finally got the float bowl gasket for it. Came in the mail today. And I got this from a company online that specializes in shadows, apparently. Called Brutal Customs. They sent me some stickers. But here's the new float bowl gasket. Brutal Customs. Pittstown, California. I kind of like that. Do some fun shit. So anyways, I didn't take this carburetor apart, but I'm going to attempt to put it back together. Not taking it apart myself. I usually do a lot better when I take it apart myself. But a couple notes. I kind of want to let some people know here, if you're watching this video and you're not 100% comfortable with carburetors, one thing to know is the needle that goes in here, which is for your main jet. There's a lot of them that have adjustments on them. I'm soaking it because my son forgot to soak a couple other parts. So this one doesn't have adjustments. So typically there would be a pin, or not a pin, but a like a little C clamp or a C, what do they call them? Like a C washer, a C clip. There we go, C clip. I don't know if I can think of the right name. So sometimes there'll be a C clip on these needles, and I've years of experience here. If so, this has got a little washer in there, and what that's going to do is that's going to adjust the height of this needle. So there's sometimes little grooves in these, and there's a C clip that you can adjust the height. So it'll either set the needle further down or set the needle further up. Now what'll happen is, sometimes if the needle's too far down adjusted, when you open up wide full throttle, what'll happen is you'll kind of stall out. You'll stall out, you know, maybe 3/4 of a throttle, or maybe you'll stall out half a throttle. What happens is this needle is not being picked up far enough to let enough fuel through the carburetor. So what you need to do is take this back out. However your setup is, sometimes there's it doesn't have a diaphragm. Sometimes it's set up on a cable system where it pulls this up and down like on dirt bikes. So anyway, so I've run into a couple trial and errors with these. This one's pretty simple. This one just goes back down inside there. It drops into place with that, and then this is the keeper. Let's see if it'll adjust. But you see it in there. It's sitting down right in the middle. Okay, and then this right here has two grooves on it, or two open grooves. There you go, autofocus. So those grooves will line up with the two that are inside there. Okay, and there's a spring. Don't lose that spring. And usually just take like you can either find probably a number 8mm or a Phillips screwdriver. Drop that in there. Line up those two little holes, or line up those two little grooves. Actually, no, I'm sorry, there's 3 grooves. And you're going to give it a 1/4 turn. I don't know if you can see that in the camera. Come here. So it's just a 1/4 turn. See? And then it pops out, the spring pushes it out, and a 1/4 turn locks it into place. So it's locked into place. So now this needle can't go anywhere. Alright? So this is pretty simple. This is a pretty simple setup here. This is pretty easy. Self-explanatory. There's like a little piece of diaphragm that sticks out right there. Lines up in the top part here. And that's one thing you always want to make sure you got a nice smooth action. It doesn't hang up, doesn't get stuck, because how this thing activates is by vacuum, by airflow. As air flows through the carburetor, it also grabs air in here, and it basically, like a balloon, it fills this up with air and causes this to rise. So if it doesn't move freely, it's not going to work right. And of course, this has got a little notch right here, little bump on it. Line that right up with that, and don't forget your spring. Important. In other words, it'll open up and won't come back down. And be careful, I've had plenty of those springs fly out at my face. So I'm going to assume these smaller screws are the screws that went on top. Number one thing I always tell my kids and anybody I'm teaching how to do carburetors, find a Phillips screwdriver that fits these screws precisely. Don't find one that wobbles. Don't find one that barely fits it right. Fit one that's going to go in there nice and snug, because you will strip these screws out faster than anything I know. And it's always that last screw that you got to get off. And that's what I always look at. I always look at the screws, and you can usually tell someone's been in the carburetor. When you look at the screws, you can see how they're kind of marred up. So run these in here. Doing this real time, guys. Doing this real time. Number 4. You don't have to go crazy tight with these, but you definitely want to make sure they're not going to back out from vibrations. So get it snug, give it just a little bit more of a turn. Snug, a little bit more of a turn. I don't think you're really going to strip these out, but you never know. Just use your best judgment. If you're this far into a bike, I'm sure you have some common sense. And so now, pick it up, comes right down. And I can show you here real quick. Stay right there. And I'll show you with the air compressor. So you just by throwing air in there, it picks it right up. Perfect. Okay. One thing that keeps coming out. One thing that keeps coming out is this stupid little filter. I gotta remember this goes right back in there. Alright, another quick thing is this. This is your low end or your idle screw. Your idle screw will always have a spring on it. It'll have a flat washer and a little rubber O-ring. Don't ever put a rubber O-ring against the spring, because it'll tear this rubber O-ring up. So you're going to put your flat washer on first, your little metal flat washer, and then put your little O-ring. I always like to flip it over. If it's kind of pushed one direction, I always like to flip it over. And there goes that piece again. This went right down here. Now a lot of times if you're taking this out to clean it, make sure you grab that O-ring and that flat washer. It'll be down in there. I had to tell my son about it because I've made that mistake myself. Come on. There it goes. Okay. Now, you want to screw this in all the way, but you want to be careful when you screw it in all the way. You don't want to go tight when you screw it in all the way. Screw it in all the way to where it stops. But don't wrench down on it when it stops. It's not like you're trying to tighten it. You're just screwing it in. Okay, so now it stopped. It comes to a dead stop. So I'm not gonna sit here and try and crank it tight. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna back this out 2.5 turns. It's usually your best starting point. So it's 2.5 full turns. So right here's where we're starting. So that is going to be 1. And here's 2. And then half. That'll get you started on that. Alright, and then here's the main jet. Now usually there's sometimes a washer that will go in these. In here, sometimes there's a washer here, but in this case I don't believe there was. I'm just going to use this little wrench here, just make sure it's snug. Remember, you don't want to go too crazy tight on these things because this is aluminum and brass and you strip it out. And then we got the pilot jet. So this is what runs your bike when you're idling. Always want to make sure you can see light through there. Should be a little pinhole. Run that in there. Small screwdriver. Now this you want to make sure you get in there snug. It's not going to come back out. Alright. Next we're going to put